All right, back on SportsBIT, Betting Insight today. Paulie and Teddy. Follow us on Twitter, at Paulie Howard, at Teddy_covers. Here we go, live on sportsbookreview.com. The early game Sunday at noon Pacific, NFC Championship. Green Bay and Atlanta. Atlanta 4.5, 60.5 the total. Defense doesn't win championships, I guess. More on that coming up. Green Bay's won 8 in a row. Atlanta's won 5 in a row. During that winning streak, Ryan has 14 touchdowns and no interceptions. They met late October. It was 33-32. Rodgers had 4 touchdowns in that game. Ryan had 3. And who thought this would be the NFC Championship game? Because at the time, Green Bay fell to 4-3 with the loss. Atlanta improved to 5-3 with the win. As we discussed on Sports, but Atlanta 14-2-1 of the over on the season, and every home game has gone over. Teddy, will anybody get a stop on Sunday on defense?
And that's the question. First stop wins, you know? Look at the numbers right here. Okay, the Football Outsiders' final ratings for the regular season. Here's the Atlanta Falcons with the number 1 offense. We've been talking about Atlanta's offense all year. We'll get back to that in a minute. Packers, for the full season, they were number 4. But if you look at the back half of the campaign, they were as good as anyone. If you look at the playoff game last week, as good as anyone. Defensively, neither squad in the top half of the league. The first time they met, nothing but shootout up and down the field. There's no reason to think that the second matchup is suddenly going to become a defensive showdown.
Yeah, these are ugly numbers, Teddy. I mean, 25th in defense for Atlanta, 28th passing defense. They allowed 25 points per game. Green Bay, 21st in points per game. And Matt Ryan, the 5th best passer rating in NFL history. And the Packers have all these issues of getting stops. The defense wasn't good to begin with. And now you got all the injuries and the cluster injuries in the secondary.
Sure. I mean, we always talk about defense wins championship. Here's a conference championship game in which both defenses rated number 20 or worse for the full season. Then we talk about the offense. I mean, Atlanta, historically good this season. They averaged 1.2 yards per play above the NFL average. They did that despite facing the number 2 strength of schedule when it comes to opposing defenses. So they were putting up huge numbers, both throwing and passing. Matt Ryan playing at an MVP level all year long. The running game providing an excellent complement. And, of course, the reason that Kyle Shanahan, his name has been bandied about for the 49ers job and several others, is because that Falcons offense has been so good. And it's not just Julio Jones. You know, he's been banged up. They've been able to spread the ball around, find numerous weapons for Matt Ryan to throw to. But Green Bay's offense is every bit as good down the stretch. I mean, the way Aaron Rodgers has played over the last 8 weeks or so, you can't stop it. It doesn't matter what type of defense you're trying to draw up. You put pressure on him, he's going to dump it off. You drop everyone back into coverage, he's going to find holes. You bring an extra rusher, he's stretching plays out to 4, 5, 6 seconds before finding someone downfield. Rodgers is playing at a different level than any other quarterback in football right now. So the big question, Paulie, comes down to who the heck he's going to throw the football to, because we can be confident he's going to have to throw the football to somebody.
Yeah, as we tape this Thursday, I mean, it doesn't look good for Jordy Nelson. And now in a big surprise, Devontae Adams, because of the ankle, will not practice until Saturday, Teddy. This could be a horror show.
But remember, we said the same thing last week. It cost me money last week because I'm like, hey, Jordy Nelson's not there. This offense can't work the same way. Jordy Nelson's so important. And now you say, all right, well, if Adams doesn't play and Nelson doesn't play, the whole offense falls apart. Jared Cook was a monster last week. Aaron Rodgers found 5 different receivers for gains of 25 yards or longer. So now he's facing a defense where you look at that Atlanta back 7, their linebacking core and their secondary. 5 of the 7 players are either first or second year starters. It is not a seasoned unit. Now there's talent there, and I think they got better as the season progressed, but we're still talking about Aaron Rodgers. And Rodgers, who has beaten me more than once on the playoff road in the past, even if the receivers aren't 100%.
Hey, I'll tell you something. Possible factor here, though, is team fatigue. Look at this. Atlanta, final game of the season in the regular season, at home against the Saints, bye week. Then total control in the second half against Seattle, no problems there. Green Bay goes to Detroit on the Sunday night game, final regular season, then home for the Giants, then to Dallas, third trip in 4 weeks, while the Falcons Haven't had to make one. Huge scheduling edge there for Atlanta, and I think a little bit of pressure off Matty Ryan because he only one playoff win, so he beat Seattle, and they're going to be extra juiced up in the final game in the Georgia Dome.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fatigue factor is an issue. So is the Packers defense. I've got my concerns about Green Bay's defense. That's another reason why we lost money betting on Dallas last week. I didn't trust the Packers defense, and I was right not to trust the Packers defense. They got gashed in that game, and of course, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't hit the miracle throw, and the game goes into overtime, and Dallas wins the coin toss, the Cowboys were going to march down the field and get in the end zone, and Dallas was going to cover the spread in that ballgame. Didn't happen. But the Packers defense isn't great when healthy. They got injuries in the secondary. Burnett, very questionable this week. And the Falcons, great players and great schemes to take advantage. Let me talk about Matt Ryan, his quote after the Seahawks win. I think we went where we should with the ball. When they played zone coverage and dropped their guys deep, we checked down, and our running backs did a good job of getting as many yards as they could in those situations. When they meant man-to-man coverage, I gave our running backs, tight ends, and wide receiver a lot of credit because they beat some really good corners and tough guys to go against in man-to-man coverage. Schematically, Paulie, this offense is beautiful to watch.
Okay, now let's get into the total. Where do you think it closes? It's going to be nothing but public money on the over. The professionals will come in on the under just on principle. Although you have to hold your nose on that one. But we just ran it down, 14-2-1 of the over this year with Atlanta. It's a square play, but do you still like the over?
I could only look at the over in this ball. I sure as hell don't want the under. Let's put it that way. All right, and square play, sharp play. What's the right play? Okay, the sharps are going to auto bet any total this high under. We've already seen it. All right, the total got bet up initially. Now we're seeing the buyback. At the sharp books, it's already down to 60.5, even 60 at a couple, whereas the books that cater to recreational players still sitting at 61, even 61.5. So we've already seen that. I don't think the total is going to go any higher because when you talk about the volume of cash that the sharps are looking to bet, and it's an auto bet. It's just this total's too high. We see a 60, we're going to bet under. And the only previous 60 in the 21st century, 62, between the Rams, the greatest show on turf, and the 49ers. 34-24 was a shootout, stayed under. I can understand conceptually why the sharp money will be on the under in this game, but I think it's wrong. And as we've seen this postseason, it's not like the sharps are having a great postseason so far. Public bettors can and do win, and these are two really elite level offenses. I'd be reticent to bet against either one of them.
Yeah, all good points. Well, again, when the total's that high and you get a 6-minute drive that ends in a field goal, you're up against it with the total that big.
Agreed. But, of course, if you get a kick return touchdown 2 seconds later, you're fine.
Up next, big game breakdown. We'll get to the Nuggets and the Spurs in a Pac-12 game between Arizona and USC, plus the play of the day on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com. Hey, guys, for the full video, go to SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.